If you watch my reels, you've heard me talk about the word PACE and how it changes my clients' lives. PACE is an acronym that stands for progress, accountability, clarity, and execution. Now, in those 15-second reels, you don't hear me discuss exactly what the concept is of the word PACE. You're going to use those 4 words to help you gauge how you're doing with your goals and your next chapter. So let's start with the obvious one, progress. Progress first, because that's where people think the work starts, and they're wrong. You see, progress isn't a plan, it's not a goal, it's proof that something moved. And here's the trap: people wait for motivation to show up, but motivation fades. They can't count on motivation to do their progress. They think progress has to feel good for it to count. It doesn't. I had a client who tracked nothing for 3 months, and because none of it felt good enough to write down. But if you don't write down where your progress is, you're never going to see where you're going. It turns out she'd shown up to the gym for 40 days in a row. That's progress. She was really making strides in what she was trying to do. She just never gave herself credit because she never tracked it. And because she was waiting for something to arrive, it didn't feel like she was getting anything done. Progress is simply movement that is tracked. You're not going to feel it, you're going to track it. And I'll show you how we're going to do that at the end. If you're not writing it down, you're not seeing it. And if you're not seeing it, you'll quit before you ever notice that you were making progress. The second letter is accountability. And accountability is maybe one of the more important ones because most people get it wrong. They think that it's someone punishing them, someone yelling at them to get stuff done. If they miss a day, then they're completely thrown off track and all their time's been wasted. And that's not what accountability is. It's not a punishment. Punishment doesn't ever build anything long term. I can promise you that. It just makes people hide when they fall down and make a mistake. Real accountability is just a system that makes it impossible to lie to yourself. A person who checks in, numbers you track, things you write down, the ability to know that progress is being made. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be obvious. It just has to be something that you get out of your head. It's not just something that's just there for you. Just remembering something at 11 p.m. at night isn't accountability. Nobody's coming to save your next Tuesday. Okay? Somebody checking in on you on Tuesday can change the way you're making progress through that accountability check-in. The third one is clarity. This is the one where people kind of slip up and sometimes they just skip altogether. Clarity isn't a feeling. You don't wait around to feel clear. Clarity is a decision you make about what matters, what's important to you. Before you start moving, you have to know the direction you're going in. Most people confuse forward motion with clarity. Most people confuse busyness with actually getting things done. They never decide what the point of what they're doing is. Sometimes people are making so much progress on a goal that they don't really want anymore because they've lost the clarity of it. And all that progress and all that accountability is now bringing you someplace you don't want to be anymore. You need to be clear on where you're going. You don't find clarity by thinking harder. You don't find clarity by just moving and doing progress. You find clarity by deciding what your purpose is, what you're actually building towards, and then everything else has direction towards that while you're using your progress and your accountability. The last letter is execution. Execution is what everybody thinks PACE is all about, but it's actually the last piece, not the first piece. Execution without everything else is just motion. It's just busyness. It's getting tired. It's going nowhere. Once you've got real progress tracked and then real accountability, holding the line, and the clarity, pointing you at the right target, moving you in the right direction, execution is just the natural next step. It stops being a heroic act of willpower and it's more about being obvious what the next thing to do is. That's the whole secret nobody wants to hear. Execution isn't about trying harder. It's about removing the reason to do it. It's just that simple. Now, here's the part people get wrong when they try and start. They hear 4 letters and they try and run all of it every day starting tomorrow. That lasts about a week. So how do you implement it? Well, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to think about doing this weekly. When you do this weekly, maybe every Sunday as you start your week, I want you to list out where have you made progress this week? And then who have you remained accountable to? It might be different things for different goals. Maybe you have a work goal, you have to be accountable to your boss. Maybe you have a gym goal, you have to be accountable to your gym partner. And then we get into the clarity. What actually matters? Am I actually moving forward with something I really want to be doing and I want to know something about? Then what did I actually do about it? And if you do that in your journal or on your phone, just talk about it with your accountability partner, that's where you're really going to see everything start to move forward in your next chapter. Progress, accountability, clarity, execution. If you do that once a week, let's say for a month, everything stops to just feel like a worksheet. And now it actually feels like this is how I think on a day-to-day basis. That's when it moves to daily. Or maybe you just move to twice a week. You do it on Wednesdays and Sundays. Because now this is a brain check. This is you checking in with yourself and getting stuff done. Weekly first, bi-weekly, then daily. Don't skip a week and then, think you got it all worked out. It doesn't work that way. So that's pace. Progress you can actually see. Accountability that doesn't let you lie to yourself. Clarity, it's about what you're actually chasing. You're focused. And execution, which is just the natural progression of doing the other thing. Most people are only doing one or two of these things. Some people are doing three, and maybe you're even doing all four, but they're all over the place. Maybe you just heard yourself in one of them, and that's not failure. It's just where you are right now. And that's what we need to help you with. If you need help putting all four of these together in a system, and to work on these in your own life, that's exactly why I wrote the book, The Next Chapter Starts Now, and that's why I started the Next Chapter Intensive. There's a link in the bio, and you can always go to bobbykelly.com and you can schedule a call. If nothing else, 35 years of doing this taught me one thing above absolutely everything else. If you don't have a framework and you don't know how to use it, nothing will move you. Using it does. Executing it is even better. And when you have a strategy to execute, progress, accountability, clarity, and execution, everything gets easier. Book the call.